Hi, I'm Maxx, and this is my lazy sourdough recipe. I'm doing this because I've explained to a lot of people how lazy I am with my sourdough making, and I'm bored of doing that, so now I'm going to make this video instead so I can just send people to watch that. The things that I'm doing right now is just making a little leaven. I've got my starter, 50-50 flour, half white, half whole wheat, and some warm water. So, first thing I'm going to do is take just a big spoonful of my starter, put it in. I don't really care about how much it weighs, I just do a big spoonful. And then right now I'm just going to toss the rest of this because I'll get more starter when I make bread tomorrow. Next, I'm gonna tear this down to 0. I'm gonna put 125 grams of warm water. I guess 130. And then around 125 grams of this 50-50. Yeah, look at that. Close enough. Alright. Next, I'm just going to mix it up with a fork. And then I will leave it until tomorrow. This way all the yeast can kind of wake up, eat some sugars from the flour, get it all ready to make me bread. There. Done. Now I'm gonna just cover it in a tea towel and let it sit overnight. Okay, so it's morning-ish now. I have some coffee, my burrito's being made, cooked. I haven't had my coffee yet. And we're gonna start making more bread. I've got my leaven from last night, which if I unwrap it, looks a little bit more bubbly than it was. So you know that the yeast is doing what yeast does. I've got flour, brown flour, water, and that's all you need for right now. Ooh, also, I've got this little bread mixing thing. Before I had this, I just used a metal chopstick. It's very easy to mix this. It just takes a little bit more time with that. Or a fork, or a spoon, or your hands, whatever you want to use. Okay, so I'm doing this upside down, so I might not get it exactly, but again, doesn't really matter. We're gonna put 200 grams of leaven into this bowl. This is gonna be my wet bowl. 78, 163. There we go. 2 something. Okay, so that's all this leaven that I need. And you'll notice that I've got some left over. This is my starter for the next bread. So, ignore the weight. I just take that spoonful that's left over, put it in. A little bit more. I try and clean out this bowl so that it is just easier to clean later. Boop. And then there we go. This can go in the fridge, and it's enough to make leaven for the next time. So I'll do that now. Okay. Now that we have 203 grams of leaven, we're going to put in 700 grams of water, which will get me to 900-ish grams total. Well, that's not enough. A little bit more. I never measure the temperature of this water. I just go to hot on the tap and it works fine. 893. 901. Nice. Okay, now I've got 900 water. I'm just going to lightly mix this together. Make a yeast slurry, then set it aside. I've got another bowl, and you can do this all in one bowl, but I've got multiple, so I'll use them. Tear. Now we're gonna mix 900 grams of white and 100 grams of whole wheat brown flour. Oh, yeah. 897, damn close. Nope, 905, close enough. And then 100 will get us up to 1,000. My burrito's ready. Perfect. Wow, look at that. Now, you can likely mix this together if you want, or you can just dump it right in the bowl. I'll mix it just to be professional. I usually don't. There. Next, this can go. You could probably do this slowly. Again, lazy man. Whoop. Then you just mix it until it combines. At this point, it's going to be super, super sticky if you're mixing it with your hands, but yeah, it works. Try and make sure all of the dry flour is incorporated in. Maybe I should speed up this point. Yeah. I'm gonna speed this bit up. All right, so that's pretty good. If you look, it's like super, super sticky on my fingers and kind of looks shaggy, I guess I would say. We're gonna let this sit for 30 minutes and then we're going to throw in some water and salt. There we go. I forgot to mention, I cover this. Okay, so it's been about 50 minutes. Usually I try and aim for 30, but I got distracted. The dough looks exactly the same. We are going to add 50 grams of water and 20 grams of salt to this. So let's start adding the water. 34, 44, 47, 50. Heyo. And then we will add 20 grams of salt. 16, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so that's all added. And now we get to do my favorite bit, which is just squeezing this all through. And you can see it suddenly turns all doughy, which is great, because that's what you want. You want dough that's not very sticky. It doesn't really stick to my hands anymore. All right. I'm making sure I'm getting all the dough off the sides. And then I'll let this sit for like another 30-ish minutes before I do my first turn, which is kind of stretching the dough in order to make these like gluten strands long, which makes good bread. Alrighty, so it's been about 40 minutes. I just popped to the store to grab some stuff, which you can do. You don't have to sit here and baby it the whole time, which is nice. I'm going to turn it, but before that, I'm going to put it into a smaller bowl, just because it's a little bit easier to handle when it's in a smaller bowl. So I'm going to wet my hands so it doesn't stick as much. Then pick it up, slap it into the bowl. And then to turn it, you're going to want to do this like maybe 3 to 4 times over the course of 2 to 3 hours. You know, just when you remember it, if you're like, it's been a little bit since I've turned it, go ahead and turn it. And then just keep a track on how many times you do it. So you're going to want to stretch and fold, stretch, fold, and then one more. And you'll notice it gets harder and harder to stretch as those gluten strands kind of get fully maxed out. There we go. Done. We'll cover it back up and we'll hit it in another 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, turn number 2. You can see it's grown quite a bit. It's been an hour or something. I'm not too sure. Water. And we're just going to do the same thing. Stretch. I mean, you see it stretches way easier now. Stretch. And then the last one, a little bit more delicate. Stretch. And there we go. Cover it up. Turn number 3. Wet hands. Stretch and pull. There we go. Cover it back up. All right. Woo! Pretty big. This is the final turn that I'm going to do before I dump it out onto just a board to start prepping it for baking. You have to kind of be a little bit more gentle with it at this point because it's got lots of nice air bubbles in it, which will be good when it bakes to help it rise. There we go. Cover this up for about 30 more minutes and then we'll finish it up. The next step of this is to prepare the bread for the bulk rise, which means we're going to take it out of this bowl after dusting this board so it doesn't stick too much to it. Then we can take it out. Just try to make sure that it's not fully stuck anywhere. So we've got this here. I'm just going to dust it on the top so it's a little easier to touch. I'm just going to kind of cut it in half. Just kind of eyeball it. Yeah, that looks good. And again, you could just use a knife. I've just got this. pretty well. Then we want to stretch out this dough so it's all tight on one side. So the way that I do that is with a lot of extra flour because I don't like it when it sticks, but I'm folding it underneath into the center to kind of get it started and get the top kind of tight. And then I tuck the sides in while I spin it. And you'll see it'll start to like push bubbles up and tighten up. And then you can see it's got a little bit of tension in it, which is good. And I was really bad at this at the beginning, but I've gotten better as I've gone along. Still not perfect, but who cares? The yeast is doing most of the work, not you. There we go. You see they're nice and taut, all stretched out. They're slightly different sizes. This is a little bigger, but you know, it'll all come out as the same amount of bread in the end. I'm gonna let this rest for 30 minutes and then I'll do the final 4 folds before the bulk fermentation. Alrighty, so now we're heading into the bulk fermentation phase. I have these 2, well, I actually have 4 bread tins that they're going to do their bulk fermentation and their bake in. But first you have to do 4 folds where you flip it over, pull up a third, fold it over, pull up a third, fold it over, fold it over, fold it over, and then you can kind of stretch it out and place one in, flip, fold, 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 fold. And then just kind of slide it in. I made these out of just parchment paper, and you can reuse them a few times before they get a little too burnt. And then I'm going to cover both of these with the other bread tin. I'll let that sit for 3 hours, but if it's getting late, you can just pop it in the fridge and let it sit overnight and then bake it in the morning. But in 3 hours, I'll come back and show you how I prep it and bake it. All right, so it's been about 3.5 hours, I think, and the bread is pretty risen at this point. Now I'm going to just cut the bread. There's 2 ways that you can do it. If you have one of these bread cutters, you can, just lightly slice through at an angle. Just slice it open. It's kind of tough. You can get in deep. 1. Come on. It's a little tough to do, and maybe this isn't as sharp as it could be. So what I usually use, you see, it's all messed up, is just scissors. I think they work great, especially for this. See, they just slice right through. For this bread, if you're using more of a Dutch oven method, it's a little bit easier to use the blade, but scissors for this just kind of got an angle and give it 3 big slices. And then when it expands, it'll just crack open in those spots. You might get a crack down the middle, but that's no problem. Nobody cares. Doesn't matter what the bread looks like. All that matters is that it tastes good. So I'm preheating the oven right now, and we'll pop it in soon. All right, the oven's at 500. I'm gonna put both of these in for 30 minutes. And then after that, we'll take off the top lid and we'll lower the temperature. So there we go. Start a timer. See you in 30 minutes. All right, it has been 30 minutes. So I'm going to take these out. Oh, let me grab a little hot plate for them to sit on while they're out. Lift off the top. Looking pretty good. The next one. Then next is pretty important. Lower the temperature to 450 degrees from 500. And then cook it for another 15 minutes. If you accidentally forget it on 500 and then remember halfway through, it's not a huge deal. You can just set it back down to 450 and keep an eye on it. Maybe a little bit less than 15 minutes. All right, so it's done. The bread's ready to be taken out. Look at that. Looking good, looking tasty. Just gonna put both of them onto the cooling rack and then flip them out. Okay, so when I made these, I put little tabs on either side just so that it would be a little bit easier to take them out of the tins without burning my hands off, you know? Slide right out, kind of. And then peel it off. I'm going to throw these away now because they're starting to stick into the bread a bit too much for me, but still pretty easy to remove. Yeah, they're all ripped out. They've reached the end of their life. They're pretty easy to make though. There we go. 2 delicious looking pieces of bread. So that's my whole recipe. That's how I do it. It's pretty simple. The starter that I made can stay in the fridge for, I've left it for a month and a half and then fed it a little bit and it started right up pretty easily. You don't need to feed it every day. If you've trained your yeast well enough, it just kind of survives. If you have any questions, let me know. If you know me personally and want some starter, let me know that as well, because I can just get it to you. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice baking